following is a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
Drivers, start your engines. Pull those belts down tight one more time, warm up those tires, hit your marks, and let's go racing, boys and girls. NASCAR, Indycar, Formula One, Formula E, and NHRA Racing Talk. This is the Championship Racing Network. Now here is your hosts, Steve West and Matt Nicholson, with producer John Myers.
In a modified sort of way.
A little bit.
We're not talking about the racing kind of modified either.
Nope.
We're talking about broadcast modification.
Yep.
Let's just say that our flagship station is having some technical problems that go back
That's an understatement.
several days.
Yeah.
We'll leave it at that.
Quite a few.
But we are still online streaming via your favorite radio website. Whatever it is, just look up Thunder 92.7 or WTDR. Or you could just,
It's actually easier and much more preferred to go to YouTube and
I was about to
check
say,
out our channel.
You could skip all that and let's just go ahead and go right to it. Just go to YouTube, look up Championship Racing Network, subscribe, it's free, and you can stream it.
And then you can see our smiling faces.
You had to throw that into the mix, didn't you, Matt?
I sure did.
A little bit of
I'm
embellishment.
in rare
on
form.
his
I'm
part.
in rare form this morning, so I'm good.
Smiling faces. Wow. Okay, then. I don't know who you're looking at. Hey.
Hey.
We've only got one of the series that we cover on a regular basis still running.
Yep.
And they were at a brand new track, a track complimented as a nice high-speed but technical track. Oh, get ready. Matt's about ready to go off. Let's talk a little Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, shall we? Oh, gosh. Beset by controversies is probably an understatement?
That's accurate, yeah.
Okay.
Controversial.
Let's see if we can kind of run this down for you here. All this started really actually during qualifying. Max Verstappen hit the wall in qualifying, still started third. I'm not really sure how that happens. Hamilton had the pole, got a great jump off the start. His teammate Valtteri Bottas, Verstappen and his teammate Sergio Perez all kind of created chaos, which has Perez locking up his brakes in order to keep from running into the back of Verstappen. I know. Welcome standing starts. The Mercedes crew brought Hamilton in early. They were choosing hard compound tires. Verstappen actually chose to stay out trying to get some track position. But just a couple of laps later, under a yellow, Verstappen gets upset when Bottas seems to slow, shall we say, abnormally?
A little.
But because of the amount of debris on the track, the race ends up getting red flagged. Verstappen's actually out front. He was able to change tires and not lose time or his position in the process. And this begins a back-and-forth battle between your points leaders. Verstappen cuts across the front of Hamilton. Hamilton had a good run on the restart. Hamilton ends up getting the better of him. Verstappen goes wide, goes off the track, comes back on the track right in front of Hamilton in turn 2. That clips Hamilton's front wing. It drops Hamilton to third.
Mm-hmm.
More chaos ensues after this because Perez gets squeezed. He ends up being hit by Charles Leclerc. Nikita Mazepin had a slow-moving George Russell. Their races were over, as was Perez's, because he couldn't restart his Red Bull.
Yeah.
We ain't done yet.
No.
Due to running off the track during that second red flag, both Red Bull and Mercedes had lobbied for Esteban Ocon to restart in first and then lobbied for their driver to be listed in second. Ocon would indeed be first on the restart. Hamilton actually was given second, then Verstappen third. And then you get another crash. This one between Yuki Tsunoda and Sebastian Vettel. Verstappen is given the chance to cool off his medium compound tires during a virtual safety car period on lap 22 and then another on lap 30 when Kimi Räikkönen made contact with Vettel, leaving carbon fiber pieces all over the track. Oh, what a mess.
Yeah.
They finally get this all cleaned up. They get back to green flag racing, and things stayed, let's say, relatively clean through the remainder of the race. Verstappen was in the lead. Hamilton was chasing. While the track was clean, there wasn't a lack of controversy still. Race stewards determined that Max Verstappen ran Hamilton off the track on lap 42 and hit the points leader with a 5-second penalty for that move. Well, Hamilton seemed to kind of return the favor, but he was only given a warning not to do it again. Not really sure how that works.
No, neither do I. Neither do I.
Getting a funny feeling this is where that soapbox comes dusted off. Hamilton ends up, by the way, completing the pass on Verstappen. He rolls onto the win. Verstappen ends up second on, let's just say, tires that were going away quickly.
In a hurry.
Yeah. Valtteri Bottas ends up third. He got by Ocon for third on the final straightaway. I mean, you want to talk about a race right to the end. That was a really good one between him and Ocon.
That was probably the best race of the day.
I would agree. Ocon missed his first ever podium finish by a slim 1/10 of a second.
I would say instead of the last straightaway, probably the last 200 feet.
Yeah. I mean, it was a drag race off the final
Yeah.
corner. Daniel Ricciardo finishes fifth. Pierre Gasly, Charles Leclerc, Carlos Sainz, Antonio Giovinazzi, and Lando Norris end up in the top 10. As he ran the race's fastest lap as well, Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen go into this weekend's race tied atop the points, each with 369. I will let you know this. If there ends up being a tie, which it's going to be really, really difficult for them to end up in a points tie, but should they end up in a points tie, after this weekend's race, the championship will be decided by tiebreaker. First tiebreaker is number of wins. Your champion would be Max Verstappen.
Mm-hmm.
But we have one more race to go.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Bottas is not quite all by himself in third in points, 218, 190 for Sergio Perez. Then you drop down to the next race, kind of a three-man battle between Charles Leclerc, Lando Norris, and Carlos Sainz. Leclerc 158, Norris 154, Sainz has 149 points. Daniel Ricciardo's got 115, Pierre Gasly 100, Fernando Alonso in 10th with 77 in his first full year back after a couple of years off. With Mercedes finishing 1 and 3 on the day and only one Red Bull finishing the race, Mercedes jumps back out to a pretty big lead in the Constructors' Cup standings, 587 to 559 over Red Bull. Then you drop down to the next run, which is Ferrari with 301, McLaren with 269, Alpine 149, AlphaTauri 120, Aston Martin 77, Williams 23, 13 for Alfa Romeo, and sitting at the bottom of the standings with not just one, but two DNFs in Saudi Arabia. There's Haas F1 still sitting at a big goose egg.
And judging by how practice and qualifying are currently going,
That ain't going to change.
it ain't going to change. No,
No.
not changing.
You want to do soapbox now, or you want to do Snowball Derby?
Doesn't matter to me.
We're going to kick off with Formula One news anyway. I say we just go ahead and do the Snowball Derby.
Yeah.
Because down in Pensacola, in case you missed it, Five Flag Speedway hosts a fairly famous super late model event.
I've heard of it before.
Yeah, we've actually been there. It showed up in my memories not that long ago.
Yes, mine too.
Late bump and run move by one Chandler Smith, who, as we noted here last week on the show, is returning to Kyle Busch Motorsports to run the Camping World Truck Series again in 2022. He got around Derek Thorne, a very unhappy Derek Thorne, and claimed the 54th running of the arguably most prestigious super late model asphalt race in the United States of America. His car did pass post-race inspection, so he is officially the winner.
That's the key part.
Uh-huh.
You got to pass post-race inspection that takes sometimes 5 hours.
Yeah, this one seemed to take a while.
It's stupid.
Thorne, as we noted, not happy with the well-known short track move, bump and run, after having controlled the 300-lap race from the pole pretty much all afternoon and into the evening. He tried to do his literal best to stop the winning celebration on the front stretch.
He rightfully was mad. Because I saw the pass on video.
Yeah.
Let's just say the front end of Chandler Smith's number 26 late model mimicked, let's just say, a D6 bulldozer. Because he had the rear tires of Derek Thorne off the ground. Going into 3.
How close to that is being, I don't know, lack of a better term, illegal?
It's tough to say. It's not illegal, but it's borderline
Dirty.
unethical. Let's say that.
Okay, I got it.
Let's say that.
This second year in a row, by the way, that Derek Thorne had to settle for runner-up, so I can understand why he would be upset. Cole Butcher was third, trailed by Cup racer Ryan Preece in fourth, and Sammy Smith in fifth. Some other notable names and where they finished: Carson Hocevar 7th, Eric Jones 10th, Grant Enfinger 19th, Derek Kraus 20th, and we mentioned it was Rich Bickle's final race, he says. He was caught up in an early crash. He was credited with finishing 31st. Your schedule for this weekend, one race only of the series that we cover. And it is the 2021 Formula One season finale. They're running the Etihad Airways Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. 16 turns, 3.28 miles long is the Yas Marina circuit. You'll get the coverage on ESPN2 beginning at 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central Time. Practices have already been taken care of, as was hinted to by Matt. And we noted that the Haas F1 twins are 19th and 20th. What's going on at the front as qualifying has just gotten underway.
With 6 minutes and 10 seconds left in Q1. Your top two, I'll give you two guesses of who they are, and the first one doesn't count.
I'm going to go Lewis Hamilton is going to be one.
Yeah, you're correct.
And I'm going to take, I don't know, how about Max Verstappen as the other?
Yes, he is less than a tenth behind at .056 off of Hamilton's quick time so far.
That makes sense.
Bottas is third, Norris is fourth, Perez is fifth, Tsunoda is sixth, Ricciardo seventh, Ocon eighth, Alonso ninth, and Pierre Gasly has the top 10 covered in Q1 right now.
There could be some slight changes in that, but I'm getting a funny feeling the top two probably aren't really going to change by a whole lot.
Probably not.
Might change by a position. Not much more than that.
The prancing horses of Scuderia Ferrari are 11th and 12th right now. Stroll is 13th, George Russell 14th, Antonio Giovinazzi 15th, Sebastian Vettel 16th, Raikkonen in his final race is 17th.
Latifi on his car. We'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah, Latifi's 18th, and your two dynamic duo twins of Kannapolis, North Carolina, better known as the Haas cars, 19th and 20th with Schumacher and Mazepin respectively.
I'm not surprised that it's Mazepin bringing up the rear.
Yeah, by over 0.7 of a second.
Well, I mean, my alarm goes off, and, I put something on in the background, and I happen to find out that FP3, their third and final practice, is on while I'm getting dressed. There's about 30 minutes left in the practice, and at that point in time, Mick Schumacher was actually doing fairly well. He got as high as 14th in the practice session speed, with not everybody being quite up to speed. And even at that point in time, Nikita Mazepin was 19th out of 20.
Mm-hmm.
So, a lot of stuff's got to change over there at Haas F1.
That and then some.
I mean, you want to talk about a massive spotlight with a magnifying glass is going to be put on those guys during this off season as they get into next year, because a lot's going to be expected of them to do a rebound.
So Q1 is under red flag right now.
Oh, nice.
The reason it's under red flag is because, and this is per the F1 Twitter site where I'm following it.
All right.
We have a bollard on the loose on the circuit after being clobbered by both Lando Norris and Mick Schumacher.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what you get when you get British people running stuff.
Yeah.
They use words like bollard, which nobody around the world understands. We'll leave it at that. What you do need to understand is this. If your house is in need of repair, it's going to tell you. There are signs that you're going to be able to understand if you know what you're looking for. Talking about cracks in your brick, basement walls, sheetrock, walls that, well, let's just face it, they're not straight up and down. Maybe you're having problems with sticking doors or windows, uneven floors, things like that. These are all signs that you might have a foundation problem. Is it definite? No. That's why you need to have somebody come out and check it out, a professional. A guy like Michael Hart, Ox Foundation Solutions. He can come out, set up an appointment with him, and you can do it by phone, 205-362-6419. You can do it by email, mike@oxfoundations.com. Have him come out at a time that's convenient for you. Set it up with him. He'll come out. He'll do a full evaluation of your house, inside out, top to bottom. If there's nothing wrong, you've got it in writing, boom, all said and done. But if there is something wrong, he'll have it detailed for you in a written estimate. And it's at no cost, and it's at no obligation to you. So you got nothing to lose. Give yourself a Christmas present of a little bit of peace of mind that your house is in good foundation for years to come. Mike at Ox Foundations, 205-362-6419, or Mike at oxfoundations.com. Set it up. Get the no-cost, no-obligation written foundation assessment. If you need work done, we got a little bit of an extra Christmas present for you. You mentioned the promo code WEST. You get an extra 15% off of the estimate he just gave you. There really is nothing to lose. Again, 205-362-6419 or Mike at oxfoundations.com. Don't forget that promo code WEST if you need work done. And make sure you tell Mike that you heard it right here on CRN.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. Fuel only. Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
We want to take a moment here
Yeah.
because there's a storm system that's kind of running through the southeastern United States right now. It's going to come into our basic area of central and east central Alabama about midday today. And by the time it gets to us, for the most part, the teeth will have been removed from it, and that's the good news. The bad news is that the teeth on this one were actually quite sharp as it was going through an area kind of Missouri, Illinois, Kentucky, tri-state area. It really had a bite.
It started in Arkansas and it covered Indiana. No, not Indiana. Excuse me. It started in Arkansas and it went through extreme southern Illinois, Kentucky, Missouri, and Tennessee.
Yeah.
One storm. One.
Yeah, one storm. We're kind of familiar with that. If you go back about 10 years, April 27th, 2011, we remember what happened on that day. Long track tornadoes going basically on the ground from Tuscaloosa through Birmingham and up towards the Gadsden area. That's the kind of storm we're talking about now, and we're talking about a couple of towns that, for all intents and purposes, have been wiped off the map.
That's a lack of a better term, and that's a nice way of saying it.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but that's a nice way of saying it.
We don't have details. We're not that kind of a show as a general rule, but this is going to be an area that's going to be hurting for a while, and there are going to be people who have lost friends and family members out of this. We're going to have to wait for official numbers as far as the number of people who lost their lives, and that's the sad part of it as we wake up on this Saturday morning just a couple of weeks before Christmas.
Yeah. That's the very sad part, being here 2 weeks before Christmas, and some of the images that I've seen this morning that we've kind of browsed around here for a moment, especially out of Mayfield, Kentucky. They're the only way you can say it is it's sobering, very, very sobering.
So, hug your family, hug your kids, parents, brothers, sisters, whoever's in your family. Call them and say hi on this particular day, and love them, because this right here just proves we're not guaranteed anything.
A meteorologist friend last night that I have that lives out of state, he and I talk all the time, and we were watching it on our respective radar scope apps last night, and he was showing me a little trick of how you can kind of roughly estimate what kind of winds are in the storm, and he showed me how to read it. And let's just say it was eye-opening because how to read gate-to-gate shear and how to calculate approximate wind speeds. Mayfield, Kentucky could possibly have gotten hit with a tornado of over 300-mile-an-hour winds.
F5 plus.
He said the F5 streak probably just ended for the U.S.
Yeah, I can believe it. Unfortunately.
Yep.
What we are here for, as a general rule, though, is racing, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to stick with Formula One. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Obviously, the table setter for this weekend's season finale, the two drivers who finish ahead, whether it be Hamilton or Verstappen, they'll end up taking the title unless they end up finishing 9th and 10th, and the driver who finishes 10th ends up with the fastest lap of the race, and then you'll get a tie. We mentioned this back when Verstappen had gone off the track in order to gain a position in the recap. Race stewards noted it, hit him with a 5-second penalty, which was levied at the end of the race, and they told him he had to give the position back to Hamilton. There were actually two attempts in this. In the first attempt, a little bit of confusion over the radio where Verstappen was told about it. He slowed significantly before Hamilton ended up being told about it. Hamilton actually ran into the back of Verstappen, caused some minor damage to his front wing. Didn't seem to affect the 44 as he went on to get the win. But that said, there was some concern that Michael Massey, who's Formula One's race director, might be in a little over his head. A couple of people actually said that it probably would have gone a lot smoother if Charlie Whiting were still alive and still doing that job.
I could agree with that.
But either way, the second time they tried, Verstappen ends up getting tricky. I got to give him credit for this. This was a nice try. He slowed on the front straight, let Hamilton go by, but he actually timed it to where he was able to gun it going into turn one and ends up repassing Hamilton. Race steward said, no, that was not really giving the position back to Hamilton, so, hey, do it again. This time it stuck. Hamilton made the move pay off, even went a bit wide and kind of forced Verstappen to go off the racing surface. We mentioned it during the recap. Hamilton ended up being warned by radio by race stewards, but he wasn't penalized like Verstappen had been. But I think the only difference that I can come up with is that Hamilton didn't do it to gain a position. He was just doing it to be, well,
spiteful.
Hey, you're an idiot.
Spiteful.
And I'm going to run you off the track.
Spiteful, yeah.
So that brings us to the drama, again, of tomorrow's Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, where, for all intents and purposes, whoever finishes ahead of the other ends up being your 2021 Formula One champion.
Pretty much.
But there's more to the story for one soapbox climbing Matt.
Hold on a moment. Let me
wet your whistle and get prepared.
Yeah, clear my throat for this one. First off, pretty much the game of let's make a deal on penalties during the red flag.
Sure.
Was, I'm not going to say borderline. It was absolutely hysterical. Because you're sitting, well, you need to accept this penalty, or will you accept this one? No, I won't take this. No, I won't take that. My opinion, doing that right there and then getting out to the world on television,
yeah,
Michael Massey needs to go.
Yeah. I mean, if you're not... maybe we're spoiled to a certain extent, and I'm not necessarily leveling this at Brian or even Jim France, but let's face it, the king of motorsports in the United States is NASCAR.
Yeah.
And there pretty much was a time, be it Big Bill France or Bill France Jr., when they said, Matt, 5-second penalty. You didn't even bother to click the radio to argue.
No.
You went, yes, sir, and that was it. And if you argued, you got your butt pulled off the track and you were done. You're the race steward. You are the official of the officials, Michael Massey. You're the race director.
Yeah.
What you say needs to go. And if you can't make it stick with your drivers and you're willing to negotiate, you're the wrong man for the position.
Exactly. But when when Verstappen slowed down to let Hamilton back by to get his spot back, when the tail end of that 44 car cleared the nose of the 33, it's over. And he goes back to pass him. No, you got to let it back by.
For you officially,
for me, it's over.
Let by.
That's let by. Now race back on.
Okay.
All right.
And like I said, I thought the move was pretty slick. He timed it perfectly.
It was slick, and I give him credit for it. But Massey needs to go. After this, Massey needs to go.
You have zero confidence.
I have zero.
Okay.
I have zero.
We'll see.
But
I don't know.
where I had to repaint the top of the soapbox with a non-stick grip coating for this one. You're arguably, you are in the top motorsport series in the world.
So they say.
Yeah, so they say. In air quotes. You're supposed to be the most conditioned athlete. And yes, I call race car drivers athletes. Period. Argue me.
If you doubt it, try it.
Anybody wants to argue me? Let's go. I got all day. All day.
It could be an all-day argument, truth.
I got all weekend.
I got
Better
you.
yet.
I got you.
I got all weekend.
I'm with you, by the way.
Okay.
I'm fully with you.
You're running at night. Keyword, at night. Yes, it's the Middle East, but it is not the hottest time of the year. It's December, people. You're not on the equator where temperatures are moderated. You're north of the equator. You get out of a car after a 50-lap race. Per how the Sky Sports people announce it, the Jeddah Corniche circuit.
Bless you.
Thank you. 3.83 miles or 6.17 kilometers in their words. If you do it by kilometers, that comes out to 308.5 kilometer race or a 192 mile race. And you're getting out of the car having to have water and ice packs thrown on you after being in the car for just barely over an hour and making a scene on Sky Sports. Oh, the conditions were so hot. It was brutal. I took a physical beating in the car. Gentlemen, I'll even go to this level right here. The team of Rick Ware, this team of Starcom, and let's just say the team of Live Fast Motorsports. Those are you could classify them as your lower three teams, even though one of them is new and they're still escalating up. They would like a word with you.
Yeah.
Let's swap cars, boys. I'll go drive. Heck, I'll even go do it. Give Hamilton, I will take your Mercedes W12E sports car. That's how it's worded. And when they released it on iRacing, that's how it's worded. I will take it and go run it for 50 laps. Let's go put you, and I know somebody that'll let me do it, probably. Let's put you in an ARCA car and run about 3 hours, and then let's see who's tired. At Talladega, in July, during the day.
Which has been done not all that long ago.
Then we'll talk about it tomorrow morning.
Yeah,
that was hysterical. I'm done.
Okay. I got you.
Good grief.
Yeah, I know. I was kind of chuckling about it a little bit myself when I saw them all kind of having to take a moment before doing the victory lane celebration.
And Q2's rolling.
Okay. We'll keep an eye on them. Mercedes had, earlier this year, worked up a deal with an Irish company by the name of Kingspan. They came on board as a sponsor, but as soon as it was announced, there was an immediate backlash against the deal by people in the United Kingdom because this is the company that was linked to a Grenfell Tower fire back in 2017. You probably don't know a whole lot about this because, let's face it, we don't live in England. But this was a building, 24 stories, in West London that caught on fire, again, back in 2017. 72 people died, another 70 were injured. It was the worst residential building fire in England since World War II.
Oof.
The building was being refurbished at the time. Kingspan's insulation products were being used, with many pointing the finger, or trying to point the finger, at their insulation as at least part of the cause for the fire spreading so quickly. Kingspan admitted that they were involved in the inquiry after the fire, but they had been cleared of any wrongdoing. But Mercedes, noting the backlash, decided to end the partnership, released a statement that read, in part this week, quote, "We are deeply aware of the sensitivities raised in recent days, so we have jointly agreed it is not appropriate to move forward at the current point in time." I get why Kingspan wanted to do it. They're trying to rehab their image.
Yeah, no doubt.
Wounds are still a little bit too fresh, apparently. This weekend, as we noted in the weekend slate of racing, only one Formula One's 2021 season will come to an end in Abu Dhabi, which has been the series season finale each year going back to 2014. And that will continue. Formula One confirms they have signed a 9-year deal with Abu Dhabi's race promoters, keeping the track not only on the Formula One schedule through the year 2030, but it ensures their place as the season finale for each one of those years.
Not a bad thing. I mean, because looking at photos of what during qualifying and practices, quite a crowd.
It is.
Quite a crowd.
And while not true of every year, we mentioned that they've been the season finale each year since 2014.
Yeah.
Including this year, 4 out of those years, which is not the majority, but still, 4 out of those years, this is the race that has determined your champion. So there is drama in the season finale.
Yeah.
For a handful of those, and that's why they want to remain as the season finale. I get it.
Yep.
In the Formula 2 crash just before the F1 race in Saudi Arabia, we mentioned this. We don't generally follow Formula 2, but because of this very bad crash, we want to talk about it. It injured 2 drivers, Enzo Fittipaldi and Theo Pourchaire. Both were taken to a local hospital right after the collision, which happened at the start of the race, when as Enzo Fittipaldi, he couldn't. It was one of those situations where Pourchaire apparently just couldn't get off the line.
Yeah.
Like stalled his car or whatever it is. And it's a standing start. You get all these guys rolling, and if they can't tell that somebody's not moving, you're going to find the situation. Fittipaldi couldn't avoid him. He ran right into basically and over him. Both drivers were awake and alert as medical personnel arrived on the scene, got them out of their racers, transported them for further medical care. Pourchaire was treated and released that same day. Doctors said that there were no major concerning issues, but for Fittipaldi, he remained overnight after suffering a fractured right heel and a gash over his left eye, but he himself said he was making good progress. Those his words, not mine. The race resumed, but ended about 20 minutes early when 2 other drivers, Guilherme Samea and Ollie Caldwell, got into each other. The race was stopped. Soon-to-be F1 reserve driver Oscar Piastri was named official race winner, and as happened earlier this season, controversially, half points were awarded. That whole half-point situation that F2 and F1 got themselves into earlier this year, I fully expect this will be revisited this offseason.
Yeah, that's absolutely ridiculous.
Because there was massive, and I mean massive, backlash over this situation. In this case, I kind of understand that they wanted to go, you had gotten a good majority of the race in. Again, 20 minutes left. They awarded half points based on the fact that they hadn't even run a green flag lap at Spa, I think it was, in Belgium.
It was.
That race should have either been postponed or delayed to the next day.
Or even called off.
Or even canceled. There was no sense in awarding points for a race where you never saw green. They need to revisit that.
Yeah, terrible.
Badly.
Absolutely terrible.
Very, very badly. Talk a little Formula E as well, because Porsche's future in Formula E might well be determined what they ultimately decide when it comes to Formula One. Yes, these two are tied together. Don't forget, Porsche joined Formula E for the 2019-2020 season. They are committed to it through the 2022-23 season, despite not yet winning a race. Porsche officials, though, are not happy with the lack of success, said this week, quote, "The success wasn't as good as we expected or as we wanted to have. That's a fact. The goal we want is to win races in Formula E, and that we are for sure heading for a championship." They actually did have a win with driver Pascal Wehrlein, but it was disallowed after he crossed the finish line first at Puebla, Mexico earlier this year. Officials said his tires were incorrectly declared and hit him with a disqualification. Incorrectly declared.
Huh? They come up with a...
I don't know.
Never
Either way.
mind.
So with that disappointment and the disappointment of seeing their other German cohorts at BMW and Mercedes have success, including Mercedes winning the 2021 driver and manufacturers titles, they, like BMW and Audi before them, could be stepping away.
Oh, boy.
All of this is causing even more speculation that the VW-owned brand is giving some serious consideration to joining Formula One once the new engine regulations come into play for the 26 season. The parent company has been in protracted talks with the FIA and existing manufacturers about coming into Formula One, at least as an engine manufacturer. Porsche official stated for the record, quote, "It's not a secret that we're thinking about F1 and that the factors for Porsche to join F1, namely an increased push for greater electrification," kind of coming across the board for all companies, "two elements of the powertrain are coming true. Should they move on to the F1 grid, Porsche states that it will have an impact on whether or not to continue in Formula E, in addition to whether they can gain a win there." I mean, you think about this. VW is fairly committed, especially after the whole Dieselgate thing here in the United States from a few years ago. They're fairly committed to going ahead and turning just about everything in their brands, VW, Porsche, and Audi, all electric by 2030, 2035. The fact that with that being the plan,
Yeah.
and they've got two of their brands, Porsche and Audi, or had two of their brands, Porsche and Audi, in Formula E, the all-electric series, and one's already pulled out and the other's thinking about it. Okay.
Your motorsport footprint is dying.
Yeah,
there,
I mean,
buddy.
For a moment there, Formula E really seemed to be coming in because Jaguar came in, you had Audi, BMW came in, Porsche came in, Mercedes came in. You start to see where I'm going with this. You started to get all these major, at the very least European, manufacturers starting to come in and get really, really excited about Formula E. And then all of a sudden, here we go. BMW's gone, Audi's gone, Porsche's talking about leaving. Mercedes got a title, but Mercedes has already admitted, you know what? We might step away from this too. For a fleeting second, Formula E, you were doing fantastic and lost it.
Now you're dead in the water almost.
Almost.
Hello.
You know, just in time for them to have gotten an FIA World Championship recognition.
Yep.
Can you lose that after you gain it?
If you do what they're doing, you can.
Apparently, yeah. You just
Looks like the top
might.
5 is seeing red.
By all means. Let's talk about that after we take this break right here on CRN.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. Four tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Before we roll on into the American Open Wheelbase Series of Indycar, we're going to deal with qualifying in Formula One as they are in Q2.
Yeah, Q2 actually just went final.
Okay. Surprise at the top.
Everybody's on flying laps and is cycling through and changing
Sure.
changing rapidly.
Let's all get that last second lap in.
Going into Q3, transferring into Q3 is going to be Lando Norris, Esteban Ocon, Fernando Alonso, Yuki Tsunoda, Valtteri Bottas. That is 10-6.
Okay. Wow, Valtteri Bottas 6.
The top 5 are separated by less than 3/4 of a tenth.
Whoa.
Charles Leclerc 5th. It just cycled through again. Let's change that. Now the top 5 is separated by 4/10 because Verstappen just laid a blazing lap down.
Oh, okay.
Leclerc 5th, Sainz 4th, Hamilton 3rd, Perez 2nd.
Wow.
Verstappen is up on the field by 0.3 of a second.
I see what you did there with the whole seeing red thing. Red Bull 1 and 2. But can they make it stick in Q3?
But when I said
That
this,
becomes the question.
when I said the seeing red, his Sainz was up top.
That's true.
Yep.
The Ferrari driver. Okay.
Yep.
We'll keep an eye on it for you as we move over to IndyCar, and there is a crossover between Formula E and IndyCar as 4 teams went testing in Sebring, Florida, ran a test session with 3 non-IndyCar drivers and 1 incoming IndyCar rookie. Arrow McLaren SP, Meyer Shank Racing, they invited Formula E drivers Stoffel Van Dorn and Nick DeVries down respectively. Ed Carpenter Racing took a look at a one-time Formula One starter and F2 race winner Jack Aiken. And here comes a rookie, Callum Elott, getting a little bit more practical seat time in the Juncos Hollinger Racing entry. DeVries apparently impressed, which actually might benefit him later this year. He was fastest in Monday's session by 0.3 of a second over Callum Elott. And you got to remember, Elott actually raced the final 3 races of the 2021 season for Juncos Hollinger. So he's familiar with the cars. He's got more practical time behind the wheel of these cars as they prepare to go full-time in 2022. So how might this benefit one Nick DeVries? Well, he races for Mercedes in Formula E, which had previously announced 2022 is their final year in the series. Makes him an impending free agent. Makes him potentially a replacement driver, or if a team wants to expand to a second or third or maybe 4th car in the second half of this coming year, a replacement driver for IndyCar. I could see this happening. I mean, Juncos Hollinger said, you know what, we might enter a race, maybe 2. They ended up entering all 3 final races, putting Callum Elott in that car.
Right.
There's more than ample opportunity for us to see an expansion. Or actually, should a team actually find the backing like Juncos Hollinger had, they might turn around and do that again. Prepare to go full-time in 2023 by doing what? Running several of the final races in the second half of the 2022 season.
Yeah.
And putting Nick DeVries in the car might not be the worst thing in the world that you could possibly come up with. This, by the way, also seems to be one of the latest moves by IndyCar gaining more attention from racers around the world. In other words, seeming more and more of a viable option for those racers trying to climb the F1 ladder, but then they find it pretty much impossible to break through into Formula One itself. What was the one thing that DeVries, Van Dorn, Aiken noticed almost immediately, by the way, about this particular car? Pretty much what we've heard from any Formula One driver that stepped in, witness Fernando Alonso, Romain Grosjean, or Kevin Magnussen. Nick DeVries said of his time behind the wheel, quote, a very cool car, big, fun, fast, good tires, but heavy, very heavy. I think I'm going to need a few more gym hours to compete with that steering weight. Van Dorn added, quote, it's pretty much everything that everyone's been on about. It's a very big car, powerful, and heavy steering wheel. You're really fighting the car a lot, so it's really a beast of a car to hustle around a track. He noted that he had a simulator time the day before, but the actual seat time and getting the car on the track, he said, was something entirely different than being in a simulator.
All right, time out.
Sure.
Time on this one.
Go for it.
If you're looking at it from a weight standpoint, and I just did my homework, so I've got my facts right here. Formula E car, referring to a big car, Formula E car weighs 1,800 pounds.
Okay.
An NTT Data IndyCar Series car weighs 1,621.
It's possible it's got a wider footprint. Makes it seem like it's a bigger car. Again, I don't know the measurements on it. I don't know the specs on how wide or how long this car is in comparison to say, Formula E car.
Formula E car is longer.
Okay. Maybe it's just the fact that it's a lack of power steering makes it feel bigger.
I don't see how.
I'm just saying.
No, I see what you're saying, but I don't see how. Don't know. But some of these guys need to do their homework before they make some of these statements.
Odd perspective from behind the wheel.
Extremely odd.
I mean, let's put it that way. Let's call it what it is. It's an odd perspective from behind the wheel from drivers who have had time in both cars. There is a difference, and we've heard drivers who, in the Cup Series or even the Xfinity Series, they will say during the race they lost their power steering unit. And they'll note how tough it is, how tough it becomes. And I've driven a car without power steering. It's not necessarily the most fun thing in the world, but it can be done.
Not.
But you got to muscle it up. You're muscling up a little bit.
No doubt.
Let's just call it what it is.
But
it's a different animal. They keep talking about putting power steering in the IndyCar cars. It may end up happening. I don't know.
Don't know. But
here's the thing. If you want to go racing, the most viable option for you at this particular point in time certainly seems to be, with the number of teams that are pulling their factory support out of Formula E. If you can't break through to Formula One, and we have been very, very aware and quite vocal on this show about how hard it is to break into the F1 ranks.
It's as hard as to break into F1 as hard as it is to get into a Toyota Cup Series team. Let's say that. That's hard.
That hard. IndyCar has become a much more than viable option. Again, we have noticed how this coming year, the number of full-time teams running probably is about to break a record in Formula One. In IndyCar. We're talking 27, maybe 28 full-time entries. Now think about that. When we get to the Indy 500, you're going to have 33 cars start that. There have been a couple of years, back when we first kind of started this show, 2 radio stations and a title of the show ago, we talked about how they were going to have a hard time filling out a 33-car field. Now they're going to have a hard time getting any car that's not a full-time entry to get a starting slot. That's how much things have changed in IndyCar over that time.
I'll go ahead and say it, and it'll be on video record here at 7:50 a.m. at December the 11th, 2021. The 2022 Indy 500 will see a full-time entry miss the show.
I'd almost guarantee it, because they don't do charters like NASCAR does. Again, we're talking 27 or 28, depends on who you're talking to, and we haven't gotten the numbers officially until we get to St. Petersburg coming up here in a couple more months. We're pretty certain it's 27. It could be 28. That means, at the most, 6 part-time entries have a chance to get into this race. Legitimately.
Yeah.
We may see 36, 37, could we see 38 cars try to qualify their way into the Indy 500?
I will go as far as to say I wouldn't be shocked to see 40.
40 cars trying for a 33-car field.
I wouldn't be shocked.
I would dare say that would almost guarantee that one of the full-time entries would not make it in.
And
maybe more.
And I would take a trip to Indianapolis to go to Bump Day.
Oh, it'd be fascinating, wouldn't it?
Oh, that'd be awesome.
It'd be fascinating. Absolutely. So this is what we're saying. There is much more interest now in IndyCar, and one of the reasons why, quite frankly, is cost. We've talked about the details of how much it costs to put entries out onto the track of the series that we cover. NHRA is kind of an animal unto itself, but of the circle/road/street course kind of series that we cover, Formula One's far and away the most expensive. $250 million if you're Mercedes or Red Bull. Next year, they get capped $145 million tops to put a Formula One car on the track. To be a Hendrick, Stewart-Haas, Team Penske, Joe Gibbs Racing.
You could run 4 cars for that much.
25 million. We'll say 25.
25.
$25 million to put a top-flight Cup Series car on the track. To put a top-flight Indy car on the track, $5-6 million.
Roughly.
Now you know why there's an interest in IndyCar.
Bingo.
It's relatively, again, we're talking 6 zeros on the end of a number, but in comparison to their NASCAR and Formula One brethren, it's relatively inexpensive. Just saying.
Yep.
But things do continue to change. Dale Coyne Racing, for example, has been in a long relationship with Vassar Sullivan Racing, but that is expected to come to an official end. We have yet to hear it come down from the team themselves, but according to Racer.com in a report in 2021 when Dale Coyne joined forces with Rick Ware Racing for a co-owned entry, that was the one with Romain Grosjean, that pretty much seemed to suck all the air out of the room, and Vassar Sullivan Racing felt like they weren't getting that much attention, so they began to seek another alliance for 2022. They do insist that within the next couple of seasons they want to become their own standalone team. Vassar Sullivan, you may or may not remember this, came out of the ashes of the former KVSH racing operation back in 2017. They joined with Dale Coyne Racing in trying to work together in co-owned entries, garnering race wins, 2 of them, and 5 podium finishes with driver Sebastian Bourdais through 2019. In 2020, they put Santino Ferrucci in the car. Ed Jones was in the car this past year. In that time, their best finish was 4th. Ferrucci did that in the 2020 Indy 500. So here comes Dale Coyne. They move on, not only from Vassar Sullivan Racing, but we mentioned in that co-owned entry with Rick Ware Racing, they lost driver Romain Grosjean. He's gone to Andretti Autosport for this upcoming year. So having that seat open, they needed to find a driver, and they found one. He's 44 years old, but he does have 2 Indy 500 wins to his credit. That would be one Takuma Sato, who left Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing after the 2021 season came to an end. Here's what Sato brings. No disrespect to you, Romain Grosjean, but Sato brings to the number 51 12 years of IndyCar experience, 198 starts, 6 wins, 2 of those, again, Indy 500 victories, 2017 and 2020. And it doesn't necessarily hurt that Sato's been a long-time Honda representative, so moving from Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing over to Coyne with Rick Ware Racing and still running Honda-powered entries fits pretty well for him.
I would say so.
I never thought I'd say this. Congratulations, Rick Ware Racing. You have actually done something right and done it well. Granted, with the help of Dale Coyne. But you've done it well. Thank you for stepping it up in IndyCar. And Takuma Sato, good call. Good call on Takuma Sato. Hope you do well in 2022.
Could probably... Man, I can't believe
Oh,
I'm saying
he's
this.
coming close to it.
I can't believe I'm saying this.
He wants to.
Could probably
Say it.
put a...
Say it. Say it.
Put a
Say it.
Rick Ware car in victory lane.
Oh, my gosh, he said it. I guess we'll find out. We noted on last week's show, Andretti Autosport driver Alexander Rossi claimed a class win in the Baja 1000 off-road race. Rossi's actually been a prolific racer. He's not only competed in full-time in IndyCar, but he's run for Wayne Taylor Racing and some of the more noted IMSA WeatherTech sports car races over the past few years. He's slated probably to run with them in the 2022 Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona. He wouldn't be the only IndyCar driver to do that, by the way. But past that, Alexander Rossi, he's very aware of some things. He's noted the downturn in his performance of the past couple of years in his IndyCar ride. He said that once he completes the Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona, he's cleared his calendar of any other form of racing. He's choosing to concentrate on IndyCar and his efforts with Andretti Autosport. He told media this week, quote, "One of the main reasons I'm not really looking at anything on the horizon for 2022 aside from the 24 hours is I want to make sure that every ounce of focus and time and mental capacities is solely on the IndyCar program and what we have going on there. This is a critical year for me in a lot of respects. I want to make sure that what we're doing with all the other stuff, I'll revisit that in the future, but that's not in my immediate horizon. This is the equivalent of, and you can put it in football, baseball, basketball, hockey terms, I don't care. This is the equivalent of the free agent year for Alexander Rossi.
Yeah.
The 30-year-old is in his final year of his deal with Andretti, and while nobody knows whether the 2014 Indy 500 winner is going to be back with him in 2023, Alexander Rossi is trying to cement his future. He's only 30 years old. He wants to make it a bright one. He says he would like to stay with Andretti Autosport, but he wants to stay in the IndyCar series if it ends up being with another team. Mm-hmm. This is the right move for him.
No doubt.
We have seen this from other drivers in the fact that they are going to get rid of all of the distraction of, I own this, I've raced in this, I've raced in that, I race all of these other races. I'm going to settle down, I'm going to concentrate, and I'm going to do this. And what have we seen? Well, Kevin Harvick got rid of KHI when he moved over to Stewart Haas Racing in 2014. Oh, what did he do? Oh, that's right. He won a title.
Yeah. When you can clear those distractions out of your mind and can focus solely on sitting behind the wheel and executing what you need to do behind the wheel,
Amazing things can happen.
Bingo.
Number 2, this is a make-or-break year not only for Alexander Rossi. This is a make-or-break year for Andretti Autosport. Because
That's an understatement.
this downturn in performance that Alexander Rossi is talking about is not just endemic to him.
Mm-hmm.
This is an Andretti Autosport problem. They didn't get a win in 2021. Let me repeat that. Andretti Autosport did not claim a win in 2021 in IndyCar.
Shut out.
So this is not only a situation where Alexander Rossi needs to sit down and reevaluate his situation and strengthen his performance in his IndyCar ride, his primary ride. This is a situation where Andretti Autosport needs to look and go, what did we do wrong and how do we fix it?
Mm-hmm.
They've got the right drivers. There's no doubt in my mind they've got the right drivers. Rossi is still an extremely talented driver. They bring in Romain Grosjean, who did very, very good things in a Dale Coyne Racing with Rick Ware Racing entry.
Mm-hmm.
And oh, by the way, they got that hot shoe by the name of Colton Herta.
I've heard of the guy.
Uh-huh. This is a team that should be winning 5, 6, 7 races out of a 17-race year. Goose egg. Alexander Rossi's not the only one who should have reevaluated his situation and cleared his mind and his racing calendar and said, oh, by the way, here's the priority. Let's see if it works. When we come back, we'll continue talking IndyCar. Unfortunately, we got some sad news from the IndyCar world. An IndyCar racing legend passed away just yesterday. We'll talk about that. NBC Sports changing up their commentator lineup for 2022. We'll talk about that as well. And some good things coming to Laguna Seca. We'll detail all of that and more. Hour number 2's next, right here on CRN.
Don't touch that dial. The Championship Racing Network will be right back. Tires only, and back out to the track for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
Weren't we just talking about the potential of Indy 500 starting cars?
Yes, we were.
Yeah, one of those teams that is going to attempt to make the Indy 500 is Dreyer and Reinbold Racing. You might have heard of them. They have been a part-time team who have tried to put an entry into the Indy 500 for at least a decade now. They have cemented their drivers, keyword drivers, plural, for the 2022 Indy 500. They're going to try to put 2 cars into the famed race. They're going with a driver very, very familiar to them, Sage Karam. Karam has run 8 of his 9 Indy 500s for Dreyer and Reinbold Racing. They're going to pair him with a guy who we just talked about a little bit ago, who spent 2021 for the most part running in NASCAR's Xfinity Series, Santino Ferrucci. Karam was going to drive the number 24. Ferrucci will attempt to qualify the number 23. The two know each other pretty well. They've been teammates before. About a decade or so ago, they were both teammates in kart racing. So they've got a pretty good working relationship together, and they're going to go into Dreyer and Reinbold Racing, which, don't discount them. We've seen them on more than one occasion put a car not only into the Indy 500, but actually be quasi-competitive.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt, for sure.
This might turn out to be good stuff for these two drivers and the team.
Mm-hmm.
But again, we'll go minimum 27 full-time entries. Dreyer and Reinbold Racing says we're going to put 2 in. That's 29. 4 slots left.
We know Chip Ganassi's going to have 5 cars. He's already said that.
Uh-huh. And Andretti Autosport is down to 3 full-time entries. They haven't ruled out putting a 4th car out there for the Indy 500.
And I'm pretty sure Roger Penske will throw a 4th car out there, too.
Yep.
He's got one sitting in mothballs.
Just noting.
Yep.
Here we go. It's going to fill up quick.
Q3's over.
Okay, let's talk about that real quick. Let's talk a little Formula One qualifying and find out who's on the pole.
10th, Daniel Ricciardo. 9th, Esteban Ocon. 8th, Yuki Tsunoda. 7th, Charles Leclerc. 6th, Valtteri Bottas.
I think out of that whole bit right there, Valtteri Bottas being 6th is probably the surprise to me. I would have expected to be not necessarily pole, but higher.
Yeah. Carlos Sainz, 5th.
Good run for him.
0.8 of a second behind the pole car.
Whoa.
Sergio Perez, 4th. 0.8 of a second behind.
Oh.
Lando Norris, 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
0.8 of a second behind.
Oh, my gosh.
Lewis Hamilton, 2nd.
Mm-hmm.
0.4 of a second behind.
Ooh, Max Verstappen has
Pole
laid the gauntlet down.
122.109.
Let's find out tomorrow morning.
Bingo.
Saudi Arabia, title winner on the line. Meantime, when we get into IndyCar coverage in 2022, NBC Sports has announced this week the team that presents their races to you going to look slightly different. They did not renew Paul Tracy's contract. I'm not sure I'm a big fan of that. Paul Tracy spent the past 8 years as a commentator for NBC Sports. He's been known for his outspoken nature and even some social media posts that kind of took the bloom off the rose, which caused NBC to reduce his role on air in 2021. Apparently, that was something of a wake-up call for one Paul Tracy because he realized that, and some people said this was his strongest year ever on the microphone for NBC Sports.
I could argue that.
I could too. I mean, looking at what he did, I could see where he was, but apparently wasn't enough. Tracy said he wanted to work up a schedule with NBC Sports that would have also allowed him to race in the 2022 SRX series in their year 2. Tracy said that the two sides couldn't come to an agreement on how to make that happen, so Tracy will, instead of picking up a microphone, concentrate on driving not only in the SRX series. He's set to race in the IMSA WeatherTech Series in the LMP3 division, says he's going to be seeking that division's title.
Good to see him getting back behind the wheel more.
I agree.
I like it.
So that leaves us with Lee Diffie and Townsend Bell, and who else might NBC turn to? They haven't announced it yet, but it is believed that James Hinchcliffe is a leading candidate for a role, if not a permanent one. Other names could also be in the mix to take up Tracy's slot, but for the most part, Diffie, Townsend Bell, and the drivers along pit road and roving reporter likely will remain the same going into 2022. So we're just waiting on an announcement regarding one announcer.
I still to this day want to get the movement started to NBC Diffie to Dega.
I think it'd be great.
That would be awesome.
I think it would. Out to Monterey County, California, their Board of Supervisors, Reed County Commission, if you will, approved a recent request for monies to be able to make capital improvements to WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, which hosts a key IndyCar late-season race. The board watched intently a proposal done by track operators A&D Narigi LLC. They want to do several improvements to the facility. Among things they want to either refurbish or replace, you might remember the bridge that goes over the start-finish line across the racetrack. According to track representatives, here's confidence for you, it's described as crumbling.
Oof.
Yee. They want to perform also a repave of the weather-worn track as well. Last time it was repaved back in 2007. After the presentation, the board agreed they would allocate just a little bit under $10 million for that, but Narigi estimates that over the course of their full plan to modernize WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca and all of its facilities, the track and the facilities, it'll take about $65 to $70 million. $10 million. Hey, thanks for thanks for that, guys. We appreciate the handout. Not sure it's going to help us all that much. Can replace the crumbling bridge. Crumbling over the racing surface. Crumbling.
Yeah, I think that's the last thing we need is a crumbling bridge and a car come flying through under qualifying and the bridge collapse.
Yeah,
that'd
be
be
great.
bad.
That'd be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that'd be bad.
Thanks a lot for nothing. Unfortunately, we also got some sad news to report, and this came down just yesterday morning.
Yeah.
IndyCar racing legend Al Unser passes away. News came out just yesterday morning again. Born Alfred Unser, May 29th, 1939, in Albuquerque, New Mexico. He was the youngest of the four Unser brothers, as we noted back when he mentioned the passing of his brother Bobby earlier this year. The oldest brother, Jerry Jr., was actually the first of the racing brothers to run at Indy back in 1958. He got killed the very next year in that famed race in a practice session crash. Bobby, however, wasn't deterred. He raced his first Indy 500 in 1963. He was the first Unser to win that race, doing it in 1968. Well, 2 years after Bobby started his first Indy 500, 1965, Al took his first start following several years of racing things like modified roadsters, sprint cars, and midget cars. In his very first Indy 500, not bad, finished ninth. 5 years later, he won that first Indy 500 race 2 years after Bobby had claimed his first win. In that first win for Al, he led all but 10 of the 200 laps that day. Marked one of his 10 wins that season when he claimed the USAC National Championship. Remember, the USAC was the sanctioning body for IndyCar at that time. He split time between running often in not only in the USAC National, but he ran often in the USAC Stock Car division. He was that division's Rookie of the Year in 1967. That would lead him to doing some other stock car stuff we'll get to later. 1971, back at Indianapolis, he qualified fifth. He won his second consecutive Indy 500, but wasn't going to be able to claim three in a row. He missed it by that much. 1972 had to settle for runner-up after having a pretty long, protracted battle. His third win in the race came in 1978. It was a car that was considered second tier, but it was just a car that he was able to drive better than anyone believed it could be driven. He took the lead on lap 75, and for the next 75 laps, he was in a back-and-forth battle with a driver by the name of Danny Ongais. You might have heard that name if you're an IndyCar fan. But Ongais lost his engine around lap number 150. In the process, the pair had built up such a commanding lead that Al Unser was all out in the front of his field by himself by 35 seconds. But he lost a tire. It damaged his front wing, and it slowed him. At the checkered flag, he was still 9 seconds out front. And then he went on a bit of a drought. It wouldn't be until 1987 that Unser would go on to claim his fourth Indy 500 win, match the total set by the legendary A.J. Foyt, and joining a very elite club of four-time Indy 500 winners at that time, 2. In addition to those wins, Unser was going to help Team Penske to IndyCar titles in 1983 and 1985. After his final Indy 500 win, he kind of became a part-time driver, which he was until he hung up IndyCar racing after the 1993 season. But Unser was one of those guys who you'd call a driver's driver. He'd run some select NASCAR Cup Series races, as we call them now, ran 5 races over a span that began in 1968, 2 races then, 1 in 1969. Then a long drought, he ran 2 more in 1986. Those were not really all that memorable. His best finishes in NASCAR, 4th place results, 1968 Daytona 500, and at Riverside the very next year. He also competed numerous times in the International Race of Champions, 9 times to be downright exact about it. He won the IROC title in the 1977-78 year, won 2 of the 4 races that year, finished 3rd and 7th in the other 2. He actually got a Formula One start, finished 24th in Quebec in 1971, ran 3 times in the Rolex 24 Hours at Daytona, and won the very first time out he ran in 1985 in a Porsche 962. Ran the same model again in 1987 and 1991, where he finished 4th and 35th, respectively. Among the accomplishments on track, Unser has the record for the most laps led in Indy 500s. He's led 644 laps in an Indy 500 over the course of the years, more than anybody else. He's the oldest driver to have won an Indy 500. He won that 4th race at the age of 47. He broke his brother Bobby's record in doing that. And in 1986, he was inducted into the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Hall of Fame. He would go on into the Motorsports Hall of Fame of America in 1991, and over at Talladega into the International Motorsports Hall of Fame in 1998. But in 2004, Al Unser was determined to have liver cancer. He had the tumor in half of his liver removed in 2005, but he continued to battle the disease until he succumbed to it early Friday morning at his home in Shamook, New Mexico. Al Unser, 82 years old. We lost too much in the racing world in 2021.
Entirely too much, and unfortunately, the sport of IndyCar racing got hit the hardest.
It really did.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, let's hope that this is it for
Yeah.
the year. We're going to go ahead and we're going to take a little bit of an early break here. Remember Al Unser. At the same time, remember the people that have been affected by the storms that went through really the heart of our country. Arkansas, Missouri, Indiana, Kentucky, Illinois, all that area. A little bit of Tennessee as well. Remember them. Many victims will be found out of all of this in that tornado activity. And we're going to get some storm activity here in Alabama. Shouldn't be anywhere near as serious, but still be on your best behavior and be very, very weather aware today as we take a break right here on CRN.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. Network.
Hey, welcome back into the show. I'm Steve West along with Matt Nicholson, John Myers here on a day when our flagship station is, well, hurting. The transmitter, I don't know, it took a hit, I guess, in storm activity. Is that what we're hearing pretty much, John?
Lightning strike.
Okay. So the transmitter's got problems, but
It got fried.
the streaming side is on. So if you're looking for us, you can go to your favorite radio streaming site and you can look up Thunder 92.7 or WTDR. But quite frankly, the easiest way to do it is to just go onto our YouTube page. Go onto YouTube, search Championship Racing Network. You can subscribe. It's free. It's not going to hurt you. It's actually a pretty cool deal. John did a great job in setting this up.
Easier than that. CRNradio.us.
There you go. And you can find everything.
Click on the YouTube link in the upper right corner.
There you go. See, we want to make it easy for you. Help us help you
And you get to see our beautiful faces.
on an early Saturday morning when
That's
we're
right.
not really awake.
That's right.
As everyone screams and runs away from their monitors.
Ah!
Thanks, Matt.
Yeah.
No problem.
Wait until after we're on the air to have your breakfast.
That's why I'm here.
All right, to the NASCAR side of things and to the Cup Series to begin with, longtime Michael Jordan sponsor. We knew this was going to happen as soon as Michael Jordan stepped in as an owner in NASCAR, that all of his longtime sponsors that he built up relationships with during his famed NBA career going to be assisting the race team. McDonald's, they came on board with 2311, not 23 by 1. 2311 Racing in their first year with driver Bubba Wallace. Tuesday of this week, both sides came together, announced that they have expanded their partnership out. The largest hamburger, not fast food, that's Subway, largest hamburger chain in the world will sponsor both the 23 and the 45, to be driven by Kurt Busch, getting hood time on both entries for several races. They did not detail how many on each car. But let's just say numerous.
If I'm not mistaken, McDonald's picked up the difference that Monster did not have.
There you go.
So how long does it take till we see Monster Energy done in McDonald's?
Probably not long. They're going to be on the 23 of Wallace for the Daytona 500. How many other races exactly the Golden Arches will be on the hood of the 23? Unclear. Also not revealed how many or what races they were going to be primary on Busch's number 45. But the sponsor did see victory lane in the 2021 season in a rain-shortened fall race at Talladega, marking the first time that a McDonald's primary sponsored car had visited victory lane since 1994, when at Talladega, Jimmy Spencer parked that car in victory lane.
I remember that race. The two cars that crossed the start-finish line first was the 27 and 28. And they were in a dead breakaway.
Any chance to get Jimmy Spencer in on the show, I like.
That would be awesome.
Wouldn't it be fun to actually have him? Yeah. But any chance just to mention him on the show. It's fun. Bubba, by the way, about to get his own spotlight. ESPN's award-winning E60 show is set to release a new 90-minute special that will be entitled Fistful of Steel. I didn't make this up. The Rise of Bubba Wallace. It debuted actually Tuesday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 p.m. Central Time on ESPN. Repeats following on ESPN's family of channels and ESPN Plus, if you are that person. So this coming Tuesday, if you want to check it out, please do. Episode delves into Wallace's background from his birth to his interest in racing. It's hosted by Ryan McGee, who has covered motorsports for the network for years. Little surprised that they didn't go with his partner in Marty and McGee. Kind of would have thought Marty might have gotten him.
Yeah.
But that's okay. I mean, I don't have a problem with Ryan.
No,
Ryan's
Ryan
a fantastic host.
Ryan does a very good job. But for me, just me personally, when it comes to ESPN and NASCAR outside of Bob Jenkins,
Yeah,
you associate Marty Smith with it.
absolutely. Absolutely.
No question.
I mean, you can see the passion that he has for, and has always had for this sport.
Oh,
He
no doubt.
loves all kinds of sports. He's a big college football guy. I mean, Marty and McGee has largely concentrated on Southeastern Conference football.
Right.
But any chance he gets to talk about racing, he does. Marty
Mm-hmm.
loves it. So, yeah, I got to admit, a little surprised they went with McGee over Marty on that one.
And
that
they become the broadcast team for the Myrtle Beach Bowl.
Nice.
It is. They did it last year. Oh, they were fantastic.
Going to be entertaining.
They were fantastic.
Another sponsorship expansion of 3 that happened this week. We go to the newly christened Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing. I'm just going to start calling him RFK because, good God, Roush Fenway Keselowski is just a mouthful.
The Redskins team of NASCAR.
Isn't it,
Because
though?
when you say RFK, you automatically think the Redskins.
I think RFK Stadium.
And yes,
the
they're the
long-abandoned RFK Stadium.
Yes, they're the Redskins.
Yes, I agree. Until they come up with their actual new name. Washington Football Team? Come on. Anyway, RFK Racing has struck a new deal with Fastenal, longtime Roush Fenway Racing sponsor. They announced back in May they were going to be back with the team and the number 17 of Chris Buescher for 2022. Well, Fastenal, in their 12th year sponsoring now RFK Racing, not only will stay on the number 17, but they're going to get hood time on the number 6, which will be driven by 2012 Cup champ Keselowski. They showed off the paint scheme on the Next Gen Racer on Tuesday morning, showed both the 6 and the 17 cars, and noted that beginning with the Busch Clash, They will appear on the 6 several times while also being the major primary sponsor of the 17 and Chris Buescher. Kind of like, though, with the McDonald's thing over there at 2311, not 23 by 1, Racing, how many races or exactly which ones were not detailed.
Poor Patrick Brickman.
I know.
He's not going to live that down.
Not if we can help it. That being said, there was a third sponsorship announcement that came out officially yesterday, and it got teased. We're talking Stewart-Haas Racing. In case you missed it or had your head buried in the sand and you were missing out on some racing news during the course of the week. About Wednesday, I think it was, Stewart-Haas Racing announced that they had a major announcement coming up Friday.
Yesterday.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, they announced it. Yeah,
But,
you're right.
They
you're right.
leaked
I
that they had the
misunderstood.
major announcement coming
Yeah,
on Friday.
I misunderstood.
I
Yes,
think it
my
was
bad.
on Wednesday that they announced that they had
They
the
did.
major league. Well, as soon as that tease came about, wow, the rumors started flying. With everyone noting, as we noted on the show last week, there was a picture of Tony Stewart in his Tony Stewart Racing NHRA division shop, which had Mopar Dodge signs all over the place. Well, he kind of had his hand forced. Number one, Ford is not sanctioning anything in the NHRA. You get Motorcraft, but that's a sponsorship. That's not Ford sanctioning and, running Ford Mustangs and Ford engines. It's just a sponsorship.
Yeah.
So Ford's not in the NHRA. What's your chance? Well, he kind of aligned himself with Don Schumacher Racing. He poached his 2 drivers from Don Schumacher Racing. So as a mea culpa, he kind of worked a kind of an affiliation deal with Don Schumacher Racing, running Mopars, which led everybody to the obvious conclusion. I say obvious. It's not as obvious as you think. That, oh my God, Stewart-Haas Racing is going to Dodge in 2022. No.
You're wrong.
No. Number one, Dodge may come back into the NASCAR ranks.
Keyword may.
But number one, even if they did come into the NASCAR ranks, even if they announced it today, which they're not, that they were coming back to NASCAR, really, truly the earliest they could come back after having to go through and build all of these cars and test them and get them up to NASCAR standards to make sure that they were ready to go on the racetrack would be 2023. And you'd have to be, and neither Gene Haas nor Tony Stewart are this, you would have to be among the ranks of the galactically stupid to announce with a full year left that you were going to go to Dodge in 2023 and expect to get a dang thing from Ford in 2022. So no, park your speculation, for now at least, of Stewart-Haas Racing going to Dodge in NASCAR. That was not what Stewart-Haas Racing announced. That being said, what they did, pretty big. What did they announce?
They announced they have a new anchor sponsor, per their words, for the number 14 of Chase Briscoe.
Actually, it's a highly notable word, anchor.
Anchor,
sponsor.
yeah. And for you kids that don't realize what this means, is a sponsor that will sponsor the majority of the 2022 and beyond season for the number 14 Ford Mustang of Chase Briscoe.
And I'll say this, if you are familiar with us talking about the different teams, team names in several other racing series that we tend to cover,
This one will raise
it'll
your
be
eyebrow.
familiar.
Mahindra Tractors is now the new anchor sponsor for the number 14 of Stewart-Haas Racing.
In case you're trying to remember where exactly you've heard Mahindra as a team owner, I refer you to Formula E.
Bingo. The multi-year, this is straight from the Stewart-Haas Racing press release that is on their website. The multi-year partnership with a championship-winning NASCAR team owned by Hall of Famer Tony Stewart and industrialist Gene Haas will feature Mahindra Tractors, a brand of Mahindra Ag North America, on Briscoe's number 14 Ford Mustang for the majority of the NASCAR Cup Series schedule.
Majority?
The red and black
Oh, where have we seen that before?
number 14 Mahindra Tractors Ford Mustang will debut at the Busch Light Clash at the Coliseum. That's still a mouthful. I can't believe I'm saying that.
No.
On February 5th and 6th, and then we'll immediately be back on the car for the Daytona 500 on February the 20th.
Let me think. When was the last time we saw a red and black paint scheme for the 14? I want to say that might have been right around 2011. Who was the Cup Series title winner that year?
That would be Anthony Stewart, sir.
That's right. Oh, that's right. Office Depot.
And this layout of this scheme
Eerily
is
similar.
eerily similar to that 2011 Office Depot scheme.
But that being said, God, this is going to take a lot of getting used to. The car is a sharp-looking car, as is, quite frankly, the Fastenal 6 and 17. They're sharp-looking cars.
I'm more sold on the 6 Fastenal scheme than I am the 17.
That number placement still drives me crazy. I get why they did it. They're trying to put a bigger billboard out there for the primary sponsors, be it Fastenal, be it Mahindra, be it McDonald's, be it whoever. I don't care who it is. Doesn't matter. But that number placement is just so flipping weird.
All right. This is me talking with a helmet/team owner hat on.
All right, go for it.
I'm looking at an image of the Mahindra Tractors number 14 for 2022 right now.
Can you show it on camera to those who are on YouTube?
I would have to pull it up on a phone, but
Please
it
do.
Probably wouldn't be.
And John may not have seen it, so it'll be kind of interesting for John to see as
here.
well. Because I don't think you've seen a whole lot of the new number placement for these cars.
While I'm pulling it up, and I'm going to talk at the same time.
Yeah, go ahead.
Whoever had the idea of putting the larger sponsorship on the quarter panels, the last I checked, now anybody, please by all means correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
Your primary sponsor goes on the hood.
Hood, yes. Agreed.
Hood.
Mm-hmm.
You can change the font. The font. Let's just call it the font. And the size of the wording, and you can still put it on the quarter panels where it goes and put the numbers in the middle, and it still look good.
Sure. I agree.
I've seen too many cars already with 2022 renderings where the color scheme, great color scheme.
Mm-hmm. Witness the 14 that we just mentioned.
Witness the 14. And like as I said, I prefer the 6 Fastenal over the 17. Primary black over primary blue.
Sure.
Just me. I like black race cars.
Says the guy who dirties them up by going dirt racing.
Let me do this setting right here to where it doesn't go dark. And it can stay on for a minute. All right. Here we go.
John might have a bigger picture. This is going to be a quick rendering, and then you'll
There it is right
maybe
there.
see it.
If you can see it.
Okay, so you got the Fastenal.
This is the
Okay.
Mahindra scheme.
Yeah, so if you're watching our YouTube feed, pay
Right
close
there.
attention to the screen.
I can't for the life of me still understand why is it so prominent to slide the number forward.
I don't
You
know.
still got enough room on the quarter panels to where the number can sit in the middle, and you size it right.
I know.
You can still get it.
I know. I agree.
It's astounding.
I mean, if you look, and hopefully you can get the Mahindra paint job up there. Because if you look at where Mahindra is placed on the 14, it literally goes right over the rear wheel well to the back of the car.
Yeah.
And Mahindra is not a short word, but it's not like the longest word on the planet. It's not like they're trying to fit anti-disestablishmentarianism on the side of the 14. This is Mahindra.
You can take the Mahindra, how Mahindra's worded and the size of it. Now turn around and go look at the Fastenal, how it's worded, and then tell me if you can't put it on the quarter panel.
You could slide that 14 right in its regular, normal We've been the faces, and that's no disrespect to all the other voices that have been there. I could run off any number of names.
Oh, we could go for days.
Not the least of which is the most recent one, which is Grady Sapp along with Matt Nicholson. Okay? In fact, we have race programs from the fall race at Talladega 2020
Oh, we're in there prominently.
where the four of us are listed as Talladega's PA team, only to be told in 2021, well, you're not.
Just like where Dan Lockamy, that's the identity of Darlington. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but when you go to Daytona, as far back as I can remember, the identity voice of Daytona is Jim Trado.
And things will change over time, but at the same point in time, every track had been allowed within NASCAR's own circles to have their own identity built up with the help of the PA team.
Sure.
That was part of it.
The identity of Martinsville and Richmond, Joey Self.
Yeah. We could go on and on. The identity of Indianapolis had been so tied into the late Bob Jenkins.
Tom Carnegie and Bob Jenkins.
Yeah,
Those are the primary two voices.
exactly.
SMI, before he had health issues, who was your voice? Ozzy Altman.
Yeah.
And Ozzy Altman, I can remember going to dirt races and driving in dirt races at Green Valley Speedway. And Ozzy Altman's voice would be on the PA when I'm on the track.
Yeah. I mean, there are some cases where I don't have a problem with you expanding out a national footprint. Again, go try new tracks. Especially if you've got a track that's having a problem garnering people in the stands. Go see if you're going to go find another track and see if you can't put more butts in the stands than what you did at the track that you left. By all means, I think it's great. Okay? Don't forget your history. But at the same point in time, go find out. Go plan out some other things. But stop messing with things that aren't broken. Stop fixing things that aren't broken. Stop breaking it saying, oh, now we got to fix it. It wasn't broken in the first place. Again, we're employed by NASCAR. It kind of sounds like we're biting the hand that feeds us, but at the same point in time, I'm not here wearing my NASCAR employee hat on this show. That's not why I started this show. I didn't start the show to be a NASCAR fanboy. I am a NASCAR fanboy. I'll be the first person. I love NASCAR racing. I love it. It's why I've been at Talladega every single race since fall of 2007. I will be there until I am gone off of this planet. Okay? As long as they'll have me, I'll be there. I love being there. I've even told the former boss, the former chairman, Grant Lynch, and I've told the current president of Talladega Superspeedway, Brian Creighton.
I've heard it.
And I've told Russell Branham. My plan is to stay at Talladega long enough to make them name the PA booth the Steve West Memorial PA booth. That's how much I love doing it.
That's why.
What happened at the NASCAR level to create a national voice and not, apparently, they didn't ask me, they didn't ask Matt Coulter, they didn't ask Dan Lockamy, they didn't ask Joey Self, they just hired Tim out of thin air. Weird and wrong. Sorry, Tim. Sorry, Eric. Sorry, anybody else who might have had a hand in bringing him on. And again, I've said this before, I'll say it again. He's a pretty good guy. Met him, talked to him on numerous occasions over the course of a couple of days on weekends this past season. I'm not taking away from anything from him as a guy, as a man. I'm just wondering why they felt the need to have a national voice. I'm wondering why they felt the need to slide the number up to just behind the front wheel well. And that's just two examples of us wondering, what are you doing, NASCAR? Some things we applaud. Again, go out, try things. Go out and see what's out there. Give it a shot. See if there's something really, really cool out there, and hey, maybe it'll stick. But in other things, why are you messing with it? What's the point? Where were you going with it? And quite frankly, nobody's got the answer to it. We don't. And nobody who we've talked to as a general rule, has the answer to it. We'll get back into actual news when we come back as we step off of our soapbox right here on CRN.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network.
This report.
Four tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Let me put the fear of God into you if you are a procrastinator. Look at the calendar. 2 weeks from today is Christmas Day. If you ain't got your shopping done, now's the time. But that being said, do yourself and do your house a favor and give your house a Christmas present by calling or emailing Michael Hart at Ox Foundation Solutions. You say, how does that work? Well, you give him a call, 205-362-6419, or email him, mike at oxfoundations.com. And if you're anywhere within the state of Alabama, you set up the appointment. He comes out, and he checks your house. It's foundation. He wants to make sure that the foundation of arguably the most expensive purchase you'll ever make in your life is in solid, good shape. Why is that important? Well, if your foundation's falling apart, your house is in danger of falling apart. That's not a good thing. Set up the appointment with Michael Hart, again, 205-362-6419, or by email, mike at oxfoundations.com. And again, if you're anywhere in the state of Alabama, he'll come out on the day and the time that you guys set up, and he'll check out the house. And if everything's good, he'll write it out, say no problem, shake hands, you're done, and you've got peace of mind, and that's the present. The unfortunate part of it is, if there is a problem with your house, the good news is Michael has written up a detailed explanation of what's wrong with the house and how much it's going to cost to fix it. Then you throw this at him. I heard it on CRN, promo code WEST, W-E-S-T, 15% off of the amount that he just estimated in your hand, 15% off of that total. Give yourself and your house a Christmas present. Set up the appointment now. Mike at oxfoundations.com or 205-362-6419. Remember the promo code WEST and tell him you heard about it right here on CRN. We're in Cup Series information right now. Last week we told you about the somewhat surprise merger between GMS Racing and Richard Petty Motorsports. GMS Racing effectively running the operation. We're getting a little more detail this week. They got 2 charters out of the deal, one of which will be the Eric Jones-driven number 43, the other for the number 94 to be driven by Ty Dillon. But wait, there's more.
Are we sure it's number 94?
No, actually, we're not. This week, more details came out. The new operation will now be called Petty GMS Motorsports. Okay, I can deal with that.
That's a mouthful.
It is, but I can deal with it. And the logo looks pretty good.
It's not bad.
The number 94, without ever actually seeing time on the track in competition for either Petty or GMS Racing.
Only in testing.
Or in Petty GMS Motorsports, never saw the track in competition, has already been changed.
Mm-hmm.
Since Chip Ganassi Racing is now no longer, and the new owner, Trackhouse Racing, left the number available, Petty GMS Racing has gone back and grabbed one that's historically significant to them, the number 42. As mentioned, that number means a lot to the Petty organization because Richard's father, Lee, used that number from 1949 through 1961, winning 3 titles in 54 races using that number. And oh, by the way, Kyle Petty also used the number 2 different times throughout his own career. Then there's the king himself, Richard Petty. And he's getting up there in years, there's no doubt about that. But what's his new role? Well, since financier Andrew Murstein bought the team back in 2011, Petty Motorsports, or Richard Petty Motorsports, left the king pretty much little more than a figurehead. But since buying out Murstein's stake, which we talked about last week for the total of $19.1 million, Maury Gallagher, the head of GMS Racing, has said that Petty's new role will be as the, quote, face of the team at the racetrack, and he becomes the chairman of Petty GMS Racing. The team will be based out of the current GMS Racing shop in Statesville, North Carolina.
Surprised they didn't use the term chairman emeritus.
I get the feeling that's coming.
I got a feeling it's coming, too.
I mean, Richard's, what, 84?
80, I think it's 82 or 83, maybe.
82 to 85 years old, somewhere in that area. And I don't mean this in any disrespect because he's in really, really good shape.
Fantastic shape.
But at some point in time, the travel is going to get to him.
Oh, yeah.
And the face of the team at the racetrack probably isn't going to make some of the longer trips, let's say. Coming from North Carolina to Talladega is one thing. Coming from North Carolina and going to Texas?
Texas, maybe.
For the All-Star race?
Phoenix,
Phoenix early in the year? Probably not. Phoenix for the championship race? I could see that.
Probably.
He'll become selective about it.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that he's going to be that involved, I love it.
Yep.
I think it's great.
Yep.
We told you a little earlier on in the show how Monterey County, California has chucked in a little bit of money to help Laguna Seca, WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, kind of refurbish themselves. They're not the only ones trying to do that. Since being told back in September they were set to host the Cup Series in 2022 for the first time, Worldwide Tech Raceway at Gateway has been in upgrade mode 2. The track has begun what they're calling a multi-year renovation effort, but have not said exactly what is going to be taking precedent as they look forward to next June 5th, their first Cup Series race at the track, which, by the way, is not actually located in St. Louis. It's across the Mississippi River from St. Louis, located in Madison, Illinois. Is a repave something? I mean, have you seen it? You've been there.
I've not been there, no.
But you've seen it. You think it's priority? Or is it more facilities, probably?
I think it's more facilities.
I got you.
External facilities, because they've got, if I'm not mistaken, one of the smaller press boxes / PA towers that would be in Cup.
Wow, that's saying a lot when we've been to Darlington. Sorry, Dan. If you've been to Darlington and seen the PA booth, I'm just saying.
She's noting. A doozy, buddy.
Yes, she is. To the Xfinity Series, where Junior Motorsports has some good and some bad news. The good news is they unveiled a fan-voted paint scheme they're going to run with the team owner Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the spring Martinsville race. The paint scheme will use the base white with blue and yellow highlights and blue numbers with the Hellman's writing on it. In an Instagram unveiling, Jr. admitted to giving consideration to running the paint scheme with the number 03 instead of the number 88, which is a number that Dale Jr. used in the 1990s when he was running street stocks at Concord Motorsports Park. But that said, I'm glad they went with the 88.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Then there's the sad news side of what happened at Junior Motorsports.
Yeah, it is. This week, the younger brother of Dale Earnhardt Sr. and the youngest son of Ralph and Martha Earnhardt, Danny Earnhardt Sr., passed away on the 10th, which was yesterday. Yeah. He worked in the suspension room at Junior Motorsports building cars and won countless races, let's say that. He passed away at the age of 66, and he's the father of JRM car chief Danny Earnhardt Jr., and it's unknown what he passed away from. It hadn't been said, but he passed away yesterday.
Yeah, thoughts and our prayers go out to everyone at Junior Motorsports. Adam Stern of Sports Business Daily reporting that Landon Castle's deal, something he kind of rumored to, as we talked about last week on the show, his deal with Voyager Cryptocurrency is definite. It was a deal that calls for Castle mainly to be paid, mainly, not totally, in online money. That's set to continue in 2022. The sponsor had said at the time that they signed that deal that they wanted to work with Castle to seek out a more competitive ride for him. Stern added that a likely landing spot seemed to be Cowlig Racing, but in talking to Voyager and talking to Castle and talking to Cowlig, nobody commented when that first came out. Well, Thursday, the report got confirmed. Castle has officially signed with Cowlig Racing. He will drive the number 10 Chevrolet Camaro. Voyager will be the main primary sponsor. As part of the deal, Voyager stated that the deal to sponsor Castle is a 2-year deal, which makes Castle a teammate to A.J. Allmendinger and Daniel Hemrick, and you and I got to talking about it after that came down. And we are quite firmly convinced this is probably the best car that in his entire NASCAR career Landon Castle will ever get into.
That can, yeah, that is, yeah, that's no doubt. And as good as of a super speedway racer as he is, I will put my money on it that they will
Be more than competitive?
he will win 50% of the super speedway races.
Ooh, 2 out of 4. There it is. Gauntlet laid down, Landon. Remember, this is the car that Justin Haley has been piloting. Strong car. Over to RSS Racing, they've locked down an up-and-coming driver by the name of Parker Retzlaff for a part-time schedule here in 2022. He's all of 18. Moves into Xfinity Series competition after running 2 years in the ARCA Menard Series, East Series specifically, part-time, 12 races over the past 2 years, where he's garnered top 5, 9 top 5, 9 top 10 finishes. He's slated to run at least 10 Xfinity Series races, where he'll drive a second RSS racing car along with the owner-driver Ryan Sieg. At this time, Parker's expected to run Spring Phoenix, Richmond, Martinsville, Dover, Nashville, Atlanta, Pocono, Kansas, Bristol, and back at Phoenix in the season finale in 2022. Parker Retzlaff, how much do you know?
Not enough.
Yeah, 12 races over 2 years in the ARCA Menards East Series. We'll see whether he can hold up to the up-and-coming title that he's been given. Then there's B.J. McLeod, Motorsports owner B.J. McLeod. McLeod himself has been splitting time between this team and his role as co-owner driver over at Live Fast Motorsports. For 2021, that meant that he did some time and some driving for his own team, but spent a lot of time driving for Live Fast Motorsports. 2022, that seems to continue and maybe even be more a little bit biased to McLeod paying attention to his driving in the Cup Series. Because they have signed Josh Williams to drive the number 78 Xfinity Series entry in a multi-year deal, means 2022 and beyond. Josh Williams was actually the second full-time driver that the team has named, by the way. He will join Stephen Parsons, who was signed back in September to be full-time in 2022. Williams moves to McLeod from DGM Racing, where he spent the past 2 seasons. So Parsons and Williams are listed as full-time. Doesn't seem to leave a whole lot of room for B.J. McLeod to drive for his own team, does it?
Parsons in the 99, Williams in the 78. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, there you go. Camping World Truck Series news, where Hill Motorsports has announced they're set to expand to 2 full-time trucks in 2022. Team owner Timmy Hill says the timing's right. Quote, "It's so rewarding to see this program continue to progress each year. I'm excited to have the pieces in place to take the next step for our organization with a second truck." Timmy's going to be the full-time driver of the team's number 56 Silverado after splitting time with his brother Tyler on track in the past couple of years. No information really given about the second truck, save that for 2022, they aren't going to be driving Chevy Silverados anymore. They're moving to Toyota Tundra TRD Pro Racers for 2022. So other than that, we don't know the driver, the sponsor, or the truck number. Only that information will be released soon. Just saying Matt Nicholson's still available.
Hi.
Next season, when the Truck Series rolls out onto the surface at Knoxville Raceway in Iowa, Nice Motorsports will be running a driver that most likely have never heard of, West Virginia native Tyler Carpenter. So how did Carpenter end up claiming this honor? Well, he won last weekend's Gateway Dirt Nationals, where the winner of that race won $30,000 in cash and a ride in the Knoxville Dirt Race in the Truck Series. Could be a situation where he may displace a regular because Nice Motorsports is running 3 trucks full-time next year. Carson Hocevar, Dean Thompson, and Lawless Allen. Or the team could have another entry for the 2022 Knoxville Dirt Race. They didn't detail his entry. If he were to take over for one of the previously announced drivers, it actually means that it could be 5 trucks. Because on Tuesday, at about the same time, the team announced that the number 44 truck was going to be driven by Chris Wright, who drove for Young's Motorsports in 2021 on a part-time basis. Yeah. The 27-year-old Wright now has 17 Truck Series starts to his credit, best finish of 12th. And oh, by the way, that 44 truck is the 4th full-time entry.
Yeah, they're back to 4 full-time ones. 40, 42, 44, and 45. So I got a feeling Tyler Carpenter will probably be in the 40.
Okay, we'll see.
Yeah.
One of the tracks that the Truck Series will visit in 2022 will have a new name next year. What we've been calling Lucas Oil Raceway since, about 2011, I guess, is going back to its origins. Indianapolis Raceway Park is how it was known since it opened in 1961 to 2005. Sponsorship then changed to O'Reilly Raceway Park, and then again to Lucas Oil sponsorship in 2011. Here's another mouthful. The sponsorship remains, so your new name, rather lengthy, Lucas Oil Indianapolis Raceway Park. And one note in the NHRA world, Antron Brown has just opened up his own race operations, AB Motorsports. He announced he's already working on alliances. He's worked up one with longtime friend Justin Ashley Racing and Davis Motorsports, co-owned. Owned by the 2020 NHRA Rookie of the Year, Ashley. They're going to build up a research and development and a marketing alliance. The two have been friends for a number of years, insist it is not a merger, simply an alliance between 2 smaller teams who are trying to help each other out for sponsorship-wise and improve their performance through R&D.
Yep.
I get the funny feeling Antron Brown knows how to perform pretty well. He's
I
done
would
it pretty
think
well
so.
over the past few years.
I would think so.
I don't expect that team's going to be languishing around for very long on the performance side of things.
Probably not.
This might actually help out Justin Ashley more than Antron Brown. We shall see. But, yeah, it's going to be a fun year coming up in 2022. We're looking forward to it. We are back next week, but the week after, it's Christmas. The week after that, New Year's. So we got one more show, and then we're going to take a couple of weeks off. That's very unusual for us, by the way.
Last show of 2021 next week.
I know.
Wow.
Hard to believe, huh?
Yep.
But we're going to be back next week. Who knows? Maybe our flagship station will be back on the air. We'll find out, just like you will, next Saturday morning. Until then, thank you for checking us out and listening to the Championship Racing Network.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.